Welcome to The Good Work, a podcast and video series that follows The Event Company, an event design company that specializes in corporate, nonprofit, and social events. Our passion lies in creating one-of-a-kind events that share the good work of organizations we are fortunate to collaborate with. Tune in for conversations with leaders of these great groups, our best advice for your next event, and some behind-the-scenes moments. Now, let us show you The Good Work.
One of the most talked about new originals on Netflix and in our office is the documentary Fyre, the greatest party that never happened. In this episode of The Good Work, the women at the event company are going to review the documentary and provide reviews on the fails and flops of the Fyer Festival. We'll cover it all, from the venue to the food, logistics, and even the finances. Please welcome to today's podcast, Addie, Callie, Sarah, and Maddie. Welcome back, everyone, and welcome to today's podcast.
Hello.
Good morning, Callie.
I'm excited for this one.
Yeah.
We're talking about not catching fire, but the fire. Well, this event kind of did, but the Fyer Festival.
Yes.
And we've got all four of us here.
Yeah.
Party.
So
So
Fun.
excited.
I like it.
So we're going to talk about how the flops and the fails of Fyer Festival. There were some successful points early on.
Yeah, I think they
Sure.
had
No
Sure.
reason.
I think they had
good
very
intentions. Yes, good
Like,
intentions.
good intentions. I don't know how I feel about that either, to be honest. I don't know. I don't know about that one either.
So this is going to be really just our own take, our own review. We've talked a lot about this in the office. We've listened to podcasts. We've watched it on Netflix. I've seen parts of the Hulu one, the new Hulu version, where it's really just Billy up there kind of defending himself in a sense. But so yeah, it'll be fun to kind of hear your guys' take on different things. But why don't we start out by kind of talking about the premises and the whole synopsis of the festival? Do you want to start, Callie, and talking a little bit about
I can,
back in
guess.
2017?
Yeah, so a young entrepreneur, I guess we could call him. I think he was about 24 years old.
Yeah.
Started this company. Basically, it was the concept of getting young millennials together to like socialize, kind of an exclusive club, basically.
Yeah.
So they paid a yearly membership fee. They'd go to these venues. It got very successful. And so we made some other connections with rapper Ja Rule.
Ja Rule.
And they
Can you sing us any Ja Rule songs?
Ooh. I don't think
Take it away.
so. They decided they wanted to make a music festival, basically.
Yeah.
And this young entrepreneur, Billy, so I'll just probably use his name.
Billy
from now
McFarlane.
on. Yep. And he acquired an island in the Bahamas.
Yeah.
Who was famous? Who was
Pablo Escobar.
Pablo
Yeah.
Escobar.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so they said, let's do it there.
Yep.
So Draw was going to take the musical part of it. Billy was going to kind of do the business side of it. They create a separate media company to really do the whole influencer, social media push, all of that. And that's where we kind of start the fail part, the planning, the fire. So they started to do, they initially brought in a bunch of influencers. I think it was basically a bunch of models.
A bunch of models. He had some NFL people or players.
Yeah.
Players. I know that they had different, and that sporting whole, that whole sporting arena, some musicians as well that really kind of got on board. And they started that whole social media push with those orange tiles.
Yes.
So people were putting these orange tiles out on all their social platforms, big influencers as well. And just that it was coming. Something really awesome was coming, right?
Yeah, and I suppose it took over the internet because people are like, what's all this
Orange tiles.
boxes everywhere?
And
Yeah.
then at that same time, though, it was like right previous to that, they all took a trip down this island,
Yeah.
did a bunch of like footage and coverage, and basically had this big party and kind of got them all on board.
Yeah.
And started the kind of planning process. And then the social media push followed, and then the planning or lack of planning kind of started after that. So
all of the push on social media, though, was all these beautiful models looking like they were having fun on these yachts. Like, that's where all that behind the scenes footage kind of came. And people wanted to be a part of it, right? So they released those orange tiles, and then all these other little snippets started getting released out there. Drinking, partying.
Swimming with the cute pigs.
Yeah.
Yes, the cute pigs.
So, so all of this all happened really not necessarily organically, but it did in that sense, through social media pushes of it. But social media ended up, so it started really hopping, right? But then really inevitably, social media was the demise of this event at the
Yeah.
same
Time.
You know,
Yeah, I
because it
agree.
all ends, and we'll talk a little bit later about this, but the cheese sandwich that really broke the event, right? So you have all these influencers that have millions of followers, and then you've got this one kid who had like 420 some followers that really helped end the whole shebang.
Took it all down.
Took it
Yeah.
all down.
Yep.
While we're talking about the social media piece of it, there were a lot of things that they did not do right in that essence, really, for social media, because as the time was coming, so when did they launch? Like a few months prior to, right?
Yeah, it
Throughout
was a
socials?
very
It was a
short-
short timeline.
Throughout socials.
Yeah.
I know that they weren't hiring in the vendors until really close to the event and things like that. But through social media wise, they had this influencer program. You know, people were posting about it. People were paying $1,500, $3,000, whatever it was, to be a part of it, right? And get these exclusive packages. But they didn't get any data or info prior to. So nothing on their flights, nothing where they were going to go, what things were happening, or very little info, right? So people were pushing all these questions out on social media as well. They were commenting on Instagram, commenting on Facebook, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of comments. And one of the things that I think is so interesting, especially from our side, because we help manage a lot of social platforms, when people ask questions, you just give them a response, right?
Right.
Granted, they didn't have answers to some of those questions. So what they were doing is they were screenshotting important questions that needed to get answered, right? Whether it was medical related or whatever, those questions were important ones. And they were making those determinations of what was important or not. But then the thing that really got me is that they ended up deleting
All the negative. Yeah.
deleting,
stuff.
like not even responding or
No.
even keeping them out there. They physically went in there and started deleting comments.
Right.
Sketchy.
And that's a major red flag. Like if you're trying to cover
Yeah.
things up that
Yeah.
badly,
Right.
you know, like
Yep.
something's
They're
going
not
down.
organized. They
Yeah,
don't
no.
the influencers that they were paying to promote the event, who are the people that you want, people that are interested in going to reach out to, they didn't even know what was going on.
Yeah.
They didn't know
They
have
didn't either.
information.
anything. Yeah.
That's like when Blink 182 was one of the first first groups to actually back out. Do you remember that? Like I remember watching the film, of course, but I remember watching it kind of unfold throughout media, like traditional media, print, and all through like Yahoo and just regular internet wise a couple years back. But people started bailing, right? And they weren't as descriptive of why they were. They were just simply saying like it's not up to their standards. They're just leaving.
Yep.
So that's really kind of where the whole the cookie started to crumble, really,
Yeah.
right? When you started seeing musicians that were bailing on the
And
event.
from their perspective, like they didn't even have a stage. Like
No.
it was nothing. They
Yeah.
had no lighting.
And I'm sure theirs was just the uneasiness. Like you don't want to plan if you're 90 days out. You have requirements or needs and you're not getting fulfilled and you don't know when it'll be fulfilled to know if it's even an option. Like I would
Yeah. You have to talk about the safety of the musicians
Yeah,
that are up on
exactly.
stage. We've had other events where I've talked a little bit about this before. I won't talk about the musician, but we had a musician where they had beer cans that were thrown up at them from the pit. And the musician actually stopped, got off stage, skipped 4 songs and said he wasn't coming back on stage. And for that event, for us, we were like, oh my gosh, like what are we going to do? You've got thousands of people that have paid dollars to come to this concert. It's a fundraising event. And now you've got a musician that's sitting in his bus. Well, I kind of agree with him, right? Like you're talking about cans being thrown at your face. Right. Or bottles or whatever it happens to be. So yeah, there's the safety of the musicians and crew and staff that are up on the stage. So, I mean, yeah, kudos to them for kind of pulling out in that last minute. But
yeah.
So let's walk our viewers and listeners kind of through, especially those that haven't seen the documentary or followed it these last couple of years. But let's talk from the perspective of a guest, right? So the guest registers and they get on the plane. But do you remember how they had said in the documentary that the plane was kind of sketchy as well? Like one girl said, like, this is not even economy. This is like 3 levels or 2 levels below economy.
Yeah.
Right.
And they just slapped the word Fyer Festival on the side of this plane. Like it was even sketchy
It was
from
just
the
one of those little
beginning.
like regional jets that we fly a lot in Sioux Falls to like get to Chicago or Minneapolis, whatever. Those 4 seats across or 2 seats in between the aisle. So everyone else was like, "What is this?" And I'm like, "That's pretty normal," but
right.
whatever.
But these people
But for
were
both
promised
below
the private jet.
well,
Yeah.
not so much that, but just like the small ones, and people kind of get uneasy about it. But when they were expecting, I think like they're supposed to get there, and it's like high end. They paid thousands of dollars for a nice house, a nice whatever that they were expecting, like high-end private.
And the promoter videos were those cool little jets that, you know, made you feel like you were a gajillionaire and super important.
Exactly.
And then they get on these little flights and they're all cramped like this and no one knows what's going on. And
Stop breathing on me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Maybe we should get our own plane. We just slap the event company on this side
I'll have
for
to
all
look
of our.
into that.
I'm not
Hello,
putting that
Billy,
on my
if you're
first.
No, it's not happening. Not happening. So they get off the plane, and before they even arrived, they had a huge rainstorm the night before. So you have islanders. You don't just have the staff that are working with Fyer Festival that are involved. You have all of these islanders that are also a part of it. And they are building all the elements. They are building what were those domes?
Little
domes?
tents.
Bubble tents.
They were
tents.
like the hurricane tents.
Yes.
They were building everything. They were bringing everything in. And you had this huge rainstorm the night before, which literally made the entire island
Ruined
collapse.
everything.
The mattresses, everything was just destroyed.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Gosh.
There was nothing.
So yeah, they get off the plane and they're expecting, you know, limos and all this stuff to take them to the festival, and everyone's super excited, but they get picked up in big yellow buses.
Yeah.
Big school buses.
Or for some of them, there was no transportation. Remember their media team came?
Yeah.
Like they came in early and there was nobody there to pick them up. They had to like hitchhike,
Yeah.
you know, to get to the island.
Yep.
So you have all these people get off the bus, right? And they deter them, though, at that restaurant. Remember that at the beginning? So this restaurant, really part of the island, they deter them. They're like, just keep them because they arrived early, right? So they're not ready for them at all because the first flight was supposed to get there at like, 6:30 or something.
Ended up coming in like 2
Yeah, they
or
arrived
something.
a lot earlier than they were expected to. So they detain them at this restaurant. These kids and young adults, I should say, are just boozing, right?
Yep.
Drinking
That's
vodka.
what they kind of said to do. Like,
they were just
give them alcohol and try to deter them from what was the
So
reality.
this poor restaurant was getting hammered with people and didn't expect it. So you've got drunk kids on a pier walking all over
with
boozing
their
it up.
luggage.
With their luggage,
Yep.
yeah. Trying to figure out what to do, right? And they're thirsty and they're hungry and there's nowhere for them to go.
No.
So then they all hop on the school buses, like Maddie was saying, make their way to the island, and you can hear people's reactions on that bus when they're finally coming in, and they're like, this is a shit show, right?
They're like, turn the bus around.
Yeah, it's not what we had signed
No.
up for. Some had luggage, but do you remember, Sarah, too? Some didn't have luggage. Like they were in like big trailers.
A big
like,
trailer, and they had to go pick it up.
They were having to unload it themselves. But seeing people in line just to get their accommodations, like where they were sleeping, what was going to happen. They didn't have enough beds for people. Beds were wet, like you had said.
Yeah.
Toilet paper, water. Like there was nothing for them.
Nothing assigned, so it was a free for all. So people were just running for one that was closest to the outside because they didn't want to be on the inside or whatever it might have been. But to imagine, I can't even imagine if you were promised, like they had all the sketches. They always showed all the sketches of what the
villas.
bungalows and the villas are supposed to look like, and then to walk up and you're like, nope, this is it.
This is a hurricane tent with a wet mattress.
Yes.
Can you imagine?
No.
What if you had stepped into even, let's just say, a gala that we have? You have no idea. You bought a ticket. You don't know what to do, where to go. Sometimes you just figure it out, right? And that's what they did. They all got together and just tried to figure out how to survive the night, right? Do you remember one of the people said like it was super eerie walking around
There
and
was
being
no
out there.
lighting.
No lighting. People were pillaging for toilet paper.
Yeah, they almost
to
turned into
use.
savages because they're
Yeah.
like,
Yes,
we don't know how
yes.
long this is going to last. What is
Yeah.
the situation? Like, they're so confused.
Right. And you've got the fire team that's in this resort, right? So they've got places and beds to sleep in. But you've got all these other people that are sleeping truly on either wet mattresses or nowhere.
Yep.
And sharing spaces together. It looked I don't know.
Miserable.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't sign me up for that.
I don't think there'll be another one.
I don't think-
Sarah.
I don't
not
think so.
Not anytime soon. So let's step back though a little bit, because before those people even stepped foot there, you've got all these vendors that are a part of it. So who do you have helping with these events? You've got AV teams, you've got musicians, you've got promoters, you've got food and beverage, you've got the water guy who's working with customs, you've got all these different people that are a part of this event, and all these social media people as well back in the States trying to figure out how to promote it. And everybody had said, don't do it, right?
Yeah.
They're like, you need to cancel this.
It's not
let's-
going to work.
Yeah, even take a step back. So we said that Billy bought Pablo Escobar's island.
Right.
Well, they had a Navy SEAL come in to like scout it all out, to
Yeah.
make sketches, to see where they
Right.
could build all this stuff. And he said, you can't do it here.
Yeah.
There's not enough space.
Not enough space.
There's not enough capabilities for things like sewer, water, things like that. So they moved it to this other island, and
Yeah.
that's where we talked about
Yeah.
And
the
didn't tell anyone
restaurant,
that
the
they had moved it.
restaurant,
Right.
the bubble tents,
Yeah.
all of that.
Yeah.
So,
Ugh.
they were told no once,
Yeah.
big time, and
Wasn't happening.
then they said,
I
nope, we
think
can still do
another
it.
Red flag is they started advertising that it was Pablo Escobar's island, and wasn't he not supposed to do that?
Ooh, I don't remember
Yeah,
that
the
part.
family.
Yeah.
The family had said, no,
They
we don't want
They
it
were the
here.
ones that kicked him out.
Yep.
Oh, I don't
And
remember that part.
They just said, well, we're going to do it here anyway. And,
Yeah.
just so many red flags along the way. Just
You've got
coming up
Mark
to all these-
Weinstein, who is basically saying, I advise you, you are going against my word. I have told you repeatedly, you cannot pull this event off. And they still did it anyway. And do you remember, I don't know if it was Billy's comment back or one of the other guys to him, but they're like, that's fine. At least they'll get to see your smiling face and watch you do yoga.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because he was supposed to instruct do yoga as well. So you're talking about a huge trusted advisor on the AV side of things and all these different pieces logistically. And he's telling them, do not do this. Like the Navy SEAL specifically told Mark as well, like, you should not be doing this event. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And they disregarded it. The whole time, though, if you have read anything or even watched the documentary, like Billy's pretty cool throughout this whole process, right? Not breaking. He is pretty firm with things. Things are going to happen. Very positive. Things are going to go off without a hitch. And then he broke, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Remember
The
that?
thing is, he didn't break until about 12
Right,
hours
yeah,
before
yeah.
guests landed.
Yeah.
As like, that's what Andy, the
Right.
event planner that he
Yeah.
eventually brought on, said. He didn't really break until about 12 hours
Yeah.
before the guests came. That's like mind-boggling to me.
No
I just
kidding.
feel like
I mean, we endure a lot of stress on our team as well. Like event planning and event design is one of the top 10 most stressful jobs. HuffPost post about it, USA Today, every year. And we're always in one of those top 10. And it is stressful because you're dealing with so many different elements and so many different people. And you're in charge of kind of keeping it all together, right? Don't lose your shit, right? Like keep it all together. I just said that on the podcast. I'm so sorry.
twice. You already said it once too. Sorry.
I'm real passionate about this stuff. But he kept it cool, right? And that's
Yeah,
our job
he
too. Like
did.
no matter if stuff is breaking, dresses are on fire, people are laying on the ground hungry and pillaging for toilet paper, you got to keep it cool. Remember, he got up in front of that crowd, stood on whatever he stood on, and started
van or
addressing
something, or
them,
table.
saying like, it's all going to be okay, and they're going to figure it out, and things are going to go. And no,
I
nada.
don't know how he did it. I
Me
think I would
either.
have cracked. That's a lot of stress.
They had
people
he had
just-
staff that were crying, like
Yeah.
men and women and older people. Like people were in tears.
Yeah.
When you listen to that documentary and you hear Andy talk about it as well, Andy King, a notorious event planner and has done parties all over the world for incredible brands that really came on board and had worked with Andy for many years prior to the fact.
Billy, yeah.
Worked with Billy, and you hear him talk about it, how people, those staff though, were fearful of their lives.
Yeah.
At that point, because you do have people that are gonna go crazy. They can't go to the bathroom anywhere, whatever it looks like. They're
right.
starving. You literally have people that are trapped on an island, nowhere to go.
No.
So you hear Andy's perspective of it as well. Biz Bash did a really awesome podcast with Andy. Was that about a month ago or so, Callie?
That's what a month ago that we listened to. I think it came out pretty
Shortly
soon
after
after the
the
Netflix
Netflix.
documentary. But,
So it's really interesting to kind of see his perspective as well. And
Right.
but his perspective of Billy
Yeah.
is that he's like, he was a young, like successful entrepreneur who had ideas, who came through on a lot, sort of came through on a lot of other things, but
Right.
seemed like he was just someone that I wanted to get behind, that I thought I wanted to help support. I wanted to help him build his career, everything. And that's kind of how Billy was. And that's how everyone else kind of
you're just
came
attracted to those people, right?
Yeah.
We all know people that are like that. Like you just flock to them.
So that's
And
why I
he
think
was one of
everyone
those
like
people.
hopped on board so quick. We're all about
Right.
it, and it wasn't until later that we kind of started to realize that
Yeah.
he wasn't
He
going to
didn't
come
really
through
know
on
what
this
was going
one.
on at all.
Yeah,
Well, he knew, but he didn't want to know.
right. I think in his own mind too, he probably just believed like, I've been able to do it so far. What's saying that I can't get?
Yeah, but in that documentary, I don't know if it was on this Netflix one or the Hulu one that I watched, but I think it was on the Netflix version though. But Billy was kind of, I don't want to use that word sketchy again, but he was super smart, right?
Yeah.
Because do you remember how in the beginning stages, he would go buy tickets to Hamilton, sell those, but then utilize the funds from that to go buy tickets to the Celtics or wherever it was. Like he would utilize those funds from one to help offset dollars for something else.
Yeah.
So he could always have these cool guest experiences for all of his followers and all of his fans and all those people that were kind of part of that was it black card or whatever it was, the black card thing that he was doing. So yeah, he was smart.
He was a good salesperson. Obviously,
Incredible
he can sell
salesperson.
anything.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Well, he would, once they got kind of deep into the planning stages, they would run out of cash, basically. And so he would have to just like fly back to New York quick, meet with an investor, get $1 million or however much he would get and come back and spend it for whatever next bill that needed to be taken care of or to keep moving along with it. And even, this is one we always laugh about now, but a lot of those Fyer media or employees of Fyer had to put personal, like those charges on their personal credit cards.
Yeah.
So they like went through the list of the documentary and there's like 3 of them that verbally said like, I have like $200,000
On their Amex.
on their Amex from
So I
this
kind of
event.
joked to Callie the other day, we were at the gym and I'm like, so do you think I could borrow like $200,000 or $250,000?
And I was like, heck no.
I don't even know. Like, how could you even ask somebody to do those things? Like, I don't.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
honestly, I guess if you were in that situation where it was life or death, and
Yeah.
I mean, it really wasn't life or death.
Your life
but for
is
him,
like, I mean,
it's
his
his
business career
reputation
is
on
on
the
the
line.
line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think he had a choice but to
No.
ask his employees for $200,000, $250,000, all these things.
I feel bad when I like forget my wallet and I go get a coffee and I have to be like, can you get me my coffee? I'll Venmo you. Like, I just don't understand how you
Right.
can ask someone for that much. But
I know.
I guess when you're
It happens.
a big shot and your life is on the line.
I'm talking about it happens for coffee, not it happens for $200,000. My gosh. But since we're talking about the millions of dollars, let's talk about the food, because that was a huge part of this event and how they were going to have sushi and all these different incredible stations and all this great food that was going to be brought in. And it was, but it wasn't ready for
Right.
those pieces. So I know Andy talks a little bit in that piece about what their food budget was, $6 million? Does that sound right? Or
He wanted to be spending $6 million,
million,
but they only had $1 million to work with.
Yeah. That's right. So you talk about even $1 million seems a pretty decent food budget, for the event itself. But obviously you're dealing not in the States, so you're dealing with a lot of other things. You're dealing with customs. Remember the water got held up in customs and that whole notorious story, which we don't need to go into, go into on this podcast. But you have all these incredible vendors that are a part of things, but they didn't get the opportunity to shine.
Right.
So a lot of the fault lies not on them in particular, but you're dealing with one mastermind, really. That kind of was the demise of it all.
Yeah. And that was one part I didn't catch in the documentary. Like, I just kind of felt like the food just kind of didn't come to like fruition entirely. But then we listened to that podcast and Andy talked about how like the chef, staff, food, everything was there.
Yeah.
But because those guests came in those couple hours early, they weren't prepared in time. So
Right.
literally there's a chef and his staff preparing in one tent and some of the kids come and see some of the volunteers or the workers eating a sandwich in their volunteer tent, and they like
They pillaged
it.
Oh.
So that's how
Took
you see this
those-
infamous cheese
Jeez.
sandwich.
Yeah.
It's actually like that was what was in there and that's what they came to, but it wasn't really what was being prepared for them. So there's kind of like that misconception, sort of, I feel like. But
There's a lot of stories to be told, though. You've got Andy's story, which from our standpoint, I mean, we follow it pretty closely because of the event side, and he is an incredible event planner. But you've got also Billy's story. You've got Billy's girlfriend's story. Like, Billy's girlfriend gets on there on the Hulu version and talks about that side of it. You've got all these vendors that are a part of it. Like, do you remember the AV guy, Callie, or any of you guys, actually, but where he's like, it's 45 days pre-event, and now you're asking me to like build this stage and get all this AV equipment in here.
Right.
You know, it's not like it's going across town.
No.
Right?
no.
So you're talking about people that are supposed to do these things within a 45-day period, which is almost unrealistic.
And even like bringing in acts, I mean, bringing in those
Right.
like Blink 182 or whatever, they were so last minute. They were not much more than that 45 days.
Yeah.
Like, that's crazy when we're booking out or knowing people booking out acts years in advance.
Isn't that crazy? What would you have done differently, Maddie?
I would have taken the warning signs and,
Yeah.
dream big, but you still have to be realistic. So once I had, multiple people on my team telling me it's not going to work, I would have, just heeded their warning and canceled or, tried to, I don't know. I would have gotten out of it somehow and tried to get people their money back because that stuff just completely stresses me out.
From his perspective, from Billy's, and the team for that matter, is those dollars were spent, right?
True. Right.
So
It's true.
you paid your $1,500 or your $5,000 to stay in the yacht or whatever, but it's gone. Like there is no money. You've got investors who, like if you read some of the contracts, like if in the event of rain or XYZ or whatever, they were supposed to get their dollars back. Nobody has or will or whatever that looks like.
But even when they asked attendees after a couple, like was it 2 weeks before the event, to put extra money in for like, was it like
Those
beverages? Those
cards.
chargeable cards, and like they were the
yes.
wristbands, so they could just
Yeah.
scan.
Yeah.
And they put all that, so people would put in thousands of dollars for other activities or whatever,
That
and then
they
they wouldn't
didn't
spend
use.
it. Yeah, they just went and spent it for whatever other bill it was.
If it were me, I would probably still try to figure out how to do it as best as I possibly could. Granted, it wouldn't be the experience that we sold in that essence, but I think you'd try to figure out how to do it. I don't know if I would.
Ooh, I don't know because
I
you're
don't know if
dealing
I
with
would
all
close up
these
shop.
people on this
I know.
island, and they're just stuck there. Like
The
they have
safety
no
part
way.
of that.
Yeah, the
right?
safety
Kill
part of
me.
it.
Yeah.
Kill me.
And Marianne, sweet Marianne from that restaurant, Marianne and Elvis, those two, on that documentary, you can hear her in any articles that you've read post. Like she put up over $50,000 of her own money to pay staff, right?
Yeah.
So she took money out of savings that her and Elvis
Yeah.
had in this restaurant. And since then, people have created a GoFundMe account, and we just looked the other day and it's over $225,000. People are still making donations just yesterday into that fund to help pay them, but also the Islanders back. You hear the Islanders' perspectives as well, and all these people were kind of contracted in to build things, to build the shacks, to build all these different pieces, right? To even set up the lockers for people to put their valuables in, and they were not paid.
Nope.
So kudos to those that started that GoFundMe, because now those individuals are getting what they need back. It still doesn't make up for everybody else, though, that lost
Right.
those dollars and what that looks like in the end. But would you have hosted it and went on with it?
In my honest opinion, no, I don't think I could have. I think there's too many factors that are saying, no, do not do this. I don't.
Do you
I
think Billy
could've.
would have went to, well, I don't even know. I can't even speculate if he would have went to jail, if he would have still done it.
That's what I was going to say is, at least if he would have semi pulled it off, then maybe he wouldn't have had jail time. Maybe he just would have, ruined his career, which is still a big deal, but it's not as bad as going to jail and ruining your career. So I don't know.
Would you have done it?
I mean, I like to think in my head that once I would have heard the first time around on the first island from the first guy from the Navy, it said like, don't do it. I feel like I hoped I would have listened, but I don't think like the concept of the event or like doing it, the location wise of it was the issue. Like, what if they even waited a year?
Yeah.
If he said no and like I need another year.
Yeah.
Like in my head, I would have been like, okay, I can still do it in a year.
Postpone
Like, I don't
it.
know why they think they needed to do it in 3 months time.
I don't understand why they were
Rushing
it.
so much.
I think if they would have taken their time and kind of thought through everything beforehand,
I think it could have possibly gone off.
Yeah.
They could have maybe done it. So that's where I kind of am like, why? What was the rush? Like, why wait? You could almost have built the hype more. Everything could have been more developed, and I feel like it could have really been possibly a success
Yeah.
Right.
if they just would have waited. But
Who knows?
who knows? And hopefully we'll never have to do another one of these. So,
It's kind of fun to hear your guys' perspective on things, because I think we all have, we always have the best intention at events, and you sometimes have events, especially first year events that we kick off or that we're a part of the planning stages, where they break even, right? Sometimes there's not dollars to be made. It's just a break even because you have so much invested into it. You've got marketing teams and design and everything, all that you kind of build really from that first year. And you always have the best intentions, like I said, but sometimes it's not in your favor.
Yeah. And he didn't start small either. Like, he hired the best of the best
Oh,
people.
for
Yes.
sure.
Him spending his money was not an issue. Like, he just was blowing money left and right.
I don't know. I always thought at the end of the documentary you see him at it again, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was kind of left there.
Right.
So,
Now he's in prison.
mhm.
Why the face,
Yeah.
Maddie?
I don't know. It's just, although he, messed up so much. It's just like, it's just sad, you know? Like, it's sad for all the people that were involved, but then it's also sad for him. Like, obviously, he's a smart guy, business-wise. Well, you know what I mean? Like, being a salesman and he's creative and all this stuff, and he's just so young. And, I mean, I'm 23, you're 23, like...
Yeah.
It's just so sad.
Yeah.
But, I mean... Maybe someday he'll kind of...
I hope he learns his lesson. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
That'd be the one thing is, like, you can't build events like this. And that guy is a mastermind behind events, right? I mean, he's hosted these events for years and years. And he can create that following. So for his sake, I hope he truly... sound like a mother now, right? I hope you've learned your lesson, Billy.
Yeah.
But it's true. Like, you want to stand behind that because I think it always, in our industry anyway, it kind of, there's that skepticism now of like, oh my gosh, is this going to be another Fyre Fest?
Another Fyre Festival.
Yeah. Because we've been a part of festivals before that have been so successful. And I mean, you just try to figure out like if it's your place or not, you know?
Right.
And you want to make sure that it is successful, not only for the event, the host of the event, but also the community, right? Because they're your ambassadors for years to come. That community is not big fans of them right now.
Yeah.
So... good luck.
Good luck, Billy. See you in 6 years.
No, thanks, ladies. It was always good to kind of hear your perspective on the event side of things and kind of do our own little analysis of how it all went down.
Maybe we'll find another one to do. I hope there's not another Fyre Festival. Maybe we'll find another analysis to do. That'd be
Maybe
fun.
it will be a positive one.
Yeah, maybe it'll be really
something that turned out really great.
Thanks, ladies.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of The Good Work. We hope you enjoyed our review of the Fyer Festival. Tune in next week as we introduce you to the woman behind our floral dreams, Stacy Shop from the Flour Mill. Don't forget to subscribe to The Good Work on YouTube and iTunes and follow the event company on social media to stay up to date on the good work we are part of each day.